We are not here to entertain. We are here to warn. 2023 was not an election. It was a digital coup, and it is about to repeat itself. They know no one will vote for them, so they'll go to any length to just write fake results and use the criminals at the Supreme Court to rubber stamp it. If they try to rig the 2027 election like they did in Edo State, this time, Nigerians will rise up. Everybody knows that the shameless criminals who call themselves Supreme Court judges took bribes to validate the serious electoral fraud in Edo State. That Abuja minister, the enforcer, gave billions to judges to install an illiterate in Edo State. And they took it like hungry thieves. You can see what happened in Port Harcourt. A military ruler was imposed on them. Nigerians, we are in serious trouble. They've started rigging 2027 already. New INEC puppets, new court buyers, same criminal script. Everything has gone wrong in Nigeria. The whole structure is broken and nothing works. The last hope, the judiciary, has been bought. Nigerians should be vigilant and be ready to say no and resist any form of election manipulation or imposition of illegitimate leaders. This country was built by sacrifice, not scams. If they rig 2027, there will be no more silence. We are begging. We are warning.
The lacunas in this current electoral system within Nigeria that will not allow credibility in the system. And definitely, these desperate politicians will want to exploit the lacunas, the opportunities to alter or influence the outcome of the election to favor their interests. As some persons have argued that definitely the rigging process has already been initiated. The machineries has been in place, have been put in place to rig the 2027 election. While Nigerians are still busy being distracted by the economic woes, hardship, pressures, and here and there, and eventually are not paying attention to the critical matters, the critical issues, the fundamentals that has to do with electoral reforms. If there are no electoral reforms, what does that imply? That definitely is giving an undue advantage to the current political gladiators or those who find themselves within the corridor of power to manipulate the system to their own advantage. So what Nigerians should be more concerned is the electoral reforms. What are those concerns raised in 2023 after the 2023 presidential race elections? Not transmission of results, not being able to upload the results, of course, in real time, and other inconsistencies. The arguments surrounding the legalization of the electronic transfer of results down to the IREVs and the rest of them. Such issues have not been addressed, and time is flying. Time is flying, and these politicians are busy distracting the people. Distracting the attentions of the people on inconsequential of matters that has no importance. That is very interesting, honestly. Because why I say this is Nigeria seems not to have learned from the past. What perhaps I should have expected the majority of Nigerians to be doing now is to hold the government, those institutions of the state, saddled with the responsibility of amending the electoral reforms, those lacunas that was traceable to the failure of 2023 elections should be ironed out. And it sees that certain changes and reforms should be carried out prior to the 2027 election. But it appears that everybody is so busy distracted. Perhaps this could be intentional to distract the people, whilst They are buying time to perfect their rigging strategies and the rest of them. So you would not in any way blame the system, except the people rises to change. And the politicians who has been beneficiaries of the system will not on their own decide to alter or change the system that against their own interests. Except there is a pressure is mounted on the electoral body and the legislative arm of the government to alter what needed to be altered, to clear every vague and lacuna that could be exploited. Are Nigerians doing that? Only few, of course, have raised concerns about these issues. Now, how are you trusting that the outcome of the 2027 election will definitely be the reflection of the Nigerian populace? I expected even the opposition party to drive this argument, to insist on electoral reforms. But are they doing that? You see how much time it's taking them to form a coalitions and to reach a decisive, of course, agreement and the rest of them. Why time is buying? Why time is going? So P2B, no doubt, could be considered as one of the brightest aspirants who has history or antecedents of the past and his managerial skills. He was able to control the excesses and loopholes, was able to block so many loopholes where they drained the resources of the state. Definitely they opposed him for that, but eventually he made his way and was able to have savings for the state, brought it into several hundreds of billions of naira. Several hundreds of billions, yet he never borrowed a dime. How did he perform this magic? Which means if there is any need Nigeria, or any person Nigeria needs, is somebody who is credible and prudent in his spendings. Nigeria does not need people who borrow trillions. Nigerians are indebted to the tune of 200 trillions plus, still counting. So if there is anyone who has been tested for 8 years as a governor and has not borrowed a dime and yet left treasures, he left assets to the states while leaving office after 8 years, then such a person should be given a chance. Nigerians should rally around such a person and give him opportunity to rule. The question, will they allow that with ethnic and religious bigotry? Allow them to make the choice. Well, it has become very clear that poverty has no respect of religion and race. It is now dawned on Nigerians that if they must salvage the situation, they must have to do away with sentiments, religious bigotry, and the rest of them. That is where they are at this point. They are at the point of decision. Several persons have been expressing that concern. But see, there is no way the country can move forward. The Nigerian state is stuck in the wheel of motionless and despair. People are disappointed, extremely disappointed. If there are other better words to use, hopelessly disappointed with the current political realities, economic realities, state of insecurity, rocking the entire system. So what do they need at this time? They are looking for a way forward. They are looking for every means possible to redeem humanity. That Nigerians, more or less, are being considered as inconsequential on matters of importance that borders on their existence, their continuity, their life and policy formations which directly affect their well-being. An average Nigerian politician now is looking for how possible to keep on siphoning the resources of the state at the detriment of the masses, enriching their political allies, cronies, and judiciary, of course, exorbitant increment in their salaries and wages, allowances, while neglecting the majority of the masses, wallowing in deep, abject poverty. In deep, abject poverty, how long will that be allowed to continue? That is the issue. How long do we allow this to strive? How long will this persist? How long will Nigerians be taken for granted? How long will Nigerians be taken as or regarded as the second fiddle or fourth class citizens, not even third class, in their own country home, in their own state? They are not being regarded, their welfare are not being prioritized by the instruments of the state, by the state itself. No, how will an average Nigeria survive on a daily basis? Things are becoming extremely difficult. Now, the issue of Igbophobia might also play a very vital role in differentiating the most credible candidates. As I've said, the Igbos are being perceived as threats by the Fulanis and the Yorubas, who believe that power should rotate and revolve within these two ethnic nationalities. I'm not talking about the Hausas in this case. There are other ethnic nationalities that forms the Nigerian state. But these guys have been tested and they have lived below expectation. They have failed Nigerians woefully. They failed to address the nagging issues of insecurity, safety of life and property. Virtually every state in Nigeria is lamenting, is crying. What that implies? Failure of governance to address the myriad problem, the issues on ground. Now, having listened to this elderly man, he said they have perfected their rigging machineries, or they have perfected their rigging strategies. But Nigerians need to rise. How will Nigerians rise? The first issue is to hold the government accountable. The electoral empire must be held accountable. They give excuses that it was as a result of the failure of the IREF that they could not transmit the result of the presidential the result of the presidential election in real time, which definitely people understood that they are just making excuses for their ineffectiveness and corruption endemic within the system. So how will the people go to sleep while there are issues unaddressed? While there are issues begging for answers, questions that must be answered by these electoral bodies? How will they address all those possibilities or lacunas that have been created to foster further occurrence? Because definitely, once they have tried it first and nobody held them responsible for that gross misconduct or act of irresponsibility expressed, haven't been given virtually all the needed to carry out that exercise. Several billions was voted. Hundreds of billions was voted for this election, to prepare for the election. And sadly, they prepared to fail. Not without an intention to subvert the will of the people, as largely speculated by the masses. They could not give cogent reasons why the transmission of the presidential election could not be feasible. The excuses were baseless. It has nothing to do with technological failure, but these are self-induced, well premeditated and calculated intention to subvert the will of the people. And yet the same people are keeping silent. They have not gone out to ask questions. What I expected the opposition party to champion such cause. So who then will you blame again? Should another election comes up in 2027 and the same story keep reoccurring, you don't have to blame anyone. You don't have to blame anyone. That is just the case. Is that understood? Yet P2B is credible, among the best within those indicating their interests. Most importantly, he has shown that he has the capacity and the prudence to manage the common resources for the good of all, not just for selected few mediocres or political opportunists who are seeking for any opportunity to loot, to embezzle, and not to serve. It is not just about service. Majority of them have been driven by the quest to amass wealth, excessive wealth, to loot the country to stupor. In a situation where, with enormous resources at the disposal of the state, some certain individuals are more richer than the states. Are more richer, far richer. How do they come about that? How do they come about their wealth, their resources? All of a sudden, you see them explode. Bragging about that, some bragged about they are more richer than the state and the rest of them. You begin to ask, what is their history? What is their antecedents? Have they made any investment outside politics, which they consider their lifetime business? Even after leaving office, they are still ripping off the state, the common resources coming from the state. They still have the lion's share from those allocations. Their pensions are being increased astronomically, and the rest of them, they have other entitlement that is not being disclosed to the public. Ripping of the state. Some of them are senators before they become governors. Some of them eventually hold other offices. They are still ripping off the state. As a senator, they receive their allowances, their gratuity, their pension. As an ex-governor, 2-term serving governor, they still receive all those things. Multiplied by 2. The same people want to manage and continue perpetuating themselves within the corridor of power. And Nigerians aren't asking anything. When I said revolution, there should be a mental revolution in the first place. People should be awakened. The consciousness of the people must be awakened to the reality that the power belongs to the people, not just the disgruntled few individuals who have a sense of insecurity, because that is what drives them.